You have the volume slightly higher, please. Slightly higher. Check, check. Folks, you just saw this video. It said, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? Folks, which is true? Are they made or are they born? How many say made? Raise your hand. How many say they're born? Please raise your hand. How many are confused? Please raise your hand. Folks, think about it. How can they ever be made unless they're born? All right, folks. Whenever you want me to stop, I will stop. But eventually, it is people who make things happen. So if people make things happen, then how many agree with this one, that people are our greatest assets? Please raise your hand on this one. Not true at all. Folks, people are not assets. Only good people are assets. Rest are all liabilities. Go check it out anywhere in the world. Only good people are assets. Rest are all liabilities. And anywhere in the world, goodness must be cultivated, evil happens. If we want to have a good garden, we must plant good seeds of good flowers and good fruits. But weeds, you don't have to plant, they just keep coming. See, evil happens, goodness must be cultivated. This is the bottom line. Folks, we have an office in Singapore, and just 6 months ago, I came across an article which said globally 50% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And in the U.S., 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, and that's alarming. But then he said, with the speed of change the way it is today, the amount of information that we get in one day today, we never got this much information in 100 years. Would you agree with this one, folks? I can have a... Oh, this one is a yes, folks. You can raise your hand on this one. Okay. Now, with the speed of change, the amount of information we're getting in one day today, we never got this much in 100 years. With the result, what is happening? Products are getting obsolete the day they're getting launched. In fact, some marketing consultants, could I request you to kindly switch off your mobiles, please, folks? If I keep my mobile on, keeps flashing on, ringing in 10 minutes, would it be courteous to you people? Hello? Can we practice courtesy both sides, please? Kindly switch off. Now, folks, products are getting obsolete the day they're getting launched. I was talking to a marketing guy, and he said, electronics, the way they're coming up today, we tell people when they come up with a new product, you got 160 days, 180 days, or 200 odd days to make your billions or you pack up. And knowledge is getting obsolete within 2 to 3 years. Go check out engineering graduates. By the time they get to the 4th year, what they learned in the first 2 years is obsolete. It's gone. So with the result, a graduate that comes out of school today, within 2 to 3 years, the knowledge is obsolete, and what would they do thereafter? Looking at this, it was written there, the only constant is change. When I read that, I said, boy, we're in deep trouble if the only constant is change. And then I started penning down, is there anything else that is constant which we can master, which gives us a little more security in life? Folks, I penned down an article which I sent out. In fact, we're sending out to New York Times for publication. And it said, going into the future, the only people who will succeed in life are people who master 3 skills that are constant. 3 skills that are constant. 1 is people skills, 2 is persuasion skills, and 3 is prioritizing skills. Folks, I repeat one more time. One is people skills, two is persuasion skills, and three is prioritizing skills. What does that mean? Go check out all over the world, folks. We don't have business problems, we have people problems. And when we take care of our people problems, most of our business problems are automatically resolved. And two, check out anywhere in the world. See, whenever a person says, I cannot do this, they're really saying two things. One, either I don't know how to do it or I don't want to do it. If they're saying, I don't know how to do it, that's a technical training education issue. But if they're saying, I don't want to do it, they're really saying two things. One, either I don't care to do it, that's an attitude issue, or I feel strongly enough not to do it, that's a values issue. And go check out, by and large, major challenges all over the world fall into these two categories. Either they are attitude issues or they are value issues, folks. How many agree with this one? Yeah, this one is a yes, of course. Folks, think about it. How come under the same set of circumstances, some people break records while others break themselves? Attitude. Folks, Muhammad Ali said, to succeed in life, we need two things. We need the skill and we need the will. They're both crucial. One without the other is not going to do the job. But he said, between the two, will is a little more important than the skill. He said, when I was fighting the championship bout and I was knocked down, and when I was lying on the floor and the referee was counting me out, at that time, it was not my skill that picked me up. What skill? He already beat me. At that time, it was my will that kept saying to me, get up one more time, and 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 just get up one more time. Folks, it was my will, not my skill, that picked me up. Folks, with that, one can easily say, go check out all over the world. Most success stories are stories of great failures. So that means success is not measured by how high we go up in life, but how many times we bounce back when we fall down. That is success. Walt Disney, folks, went bankrupt several times in his life. Henry Ford didn't go to school beyond the 8th grade. Now, I'm not saying that people should drop out. Don't get me wrong. I don't recommend that. Folks, at the age of 40, he was bankrupt. When he built his first car, he forgot to put the reverse gear. That was Henry Ford. Folks, coming back, one is people skills, and go number two, in the people skills, check out, folks, these three things that I just shared with you. They have not changed. Go to our parents, grandparents, grandparents, grandparents. They have not changed. All through history, we are hired for our skills, but we are fired for our behavior. Yes, no. Absolutely. Number three, check out anywhere. The lower a person is in life, 90% of the time goes in technical skills, less than 10% people skills. And higher you go up in life, it just, what happens? Reverses. And four, technology and technicians you can always buy with money. But the wealthiest person in the world must build and create relationships. In crude language, you might say, you can buy a dog, but you cannot make them wag the tail. Are you with me, folks? Now, I was just addressing a business school at Great Lakes, in Madras. And there were 500-600 students, and they were into marketing and all kinds of stuff, which I don't understand a lot of this anyway. But bottom line, I asked them, what is marketing? And they came up with what they teach in MBA, and they said B2B, B2C, B2B, B2C, B2B, B2C, B2B, B2C. I said, my friend, do they sell these books by the weight? That's the big question. I said, remember one thing, every sale in this world is P2P. It is people to people. People buy things from people they like. Are you with me? And people buy things what they want to buy, not what they need to buy. And all these cliches they learn. And that's the end of it. And I asked them, what is marketing? They gave us a one-page definition, and somebody else came up with another page. I said, my friend, marketing only strategizes and identifies sources of money, gets no money. Only sales gets money. Are you with me? Marketing only identifies and strategizes sources of revenue. Only sales gets revenue. Go check out the profit and loss of any company, a balance sheet and profit and loss. Only sales represents profit. Only sales represents profit. Rest everything in a company is overhead, including CEO salary. Are you with me? Everything in a company is overhead. Only sales represents profit. Folks, we took a Swiss company as our client, and I got a call from the CEO, and he said, can you do some sales training for our people? So I asked him, I said, tell me, what is the end result you're looking for? Let me see if I can deliver. If I cannot, hire somebody else. What training to do? Let that be my decision. So he said, I want my sales going up. I said, give me a week. Let me check out where your people are right now. A week later, I called him, and I said, my friend, before we teach them selling skills, we need to teach them basic courtesy, etiquette, manners, integrity. He said, what? I said, we need to teach them basic courtesy, etiquette, manners, integrity. He said, what does that mean? I said, many of your salespeople have appointments and they're running late. And they don't even have the courtesy to call and say, I'm sorry, I'm running late. 2, time to call is when? Before you got late or after you got late? Hello? And 3, if they do call, what do they say? I'm stuck in traffic. Now, don't get me wrong, traffic is a real issue all over the world. That is true. But many times they leave only 5 minutes before the appointment and they blame it on. They don't have the integrity to say, I'm sorry, I did start late. And they walk in late and they don't even have the courtesy to say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I kept you waiting. And tell me, if this is the starting point, how long do you think this will last? And folks, experience shows only the first lie is difficult. Are you with me? The second becomes easier, third becomes easier, and the fourth becomes easier, and the fifth one becomes easier, and very soon you are dealing with a chronic liar who is a crook. Are you with me? Hello? Do you need a PhD to understand this? Do you need an MBA to understand this, sir? You know the sad part? After doing PhD, MBA, they still don't understand this. Did I exaggerate anywhere, folks? This is the real world. And this is sad. And you want to teach them selling? Folks, we're grateful to God, I would say. For every one client we take, we do refuse 5. But many times when we take on a client, I ask them, tell us, what are your values? Where are your... Do you have those kind of things in place? He said, just come and motivate my people. Just come and motivate my people. I said, I will not do that. Go hire somebody else. He said, why is it? I said, because if you motivate an idiot, what do you have? You have a motivated idiot, which is worse than having a demotivated idiot. Go get another consultant. Folks, we need to get our basics right before we do anything in this world. Entrepreneurship is not just risk-taking. There's a lot of integrity involved. And if those things, it is not cleverness, it is not tactical, it is foundational on principles in life. And go check out people who have succeeded. Hear this. I was doing a program for a couple of hundred people in the U.S. It was a very mixed group. There were doctors, engineers, attorneys, accountants, carpenters, plumbers, electricians. As I walked in, I said, never in the history of mankind has it been so easy to succeed in life the way it is today. Regardless of your profession, we have no competition. I repeated myself twice. One person at the far end nudged his partner and said, what is this guy talking about? I heard the comment. I went up to him and he said, how come we have no competition? Folks, I asked him this one question. I'm asking all of you people the same question, so please listen because you need to answer. I asked him, how many people do you know right now walking on the street who are willing to do a little bit more than what they get paid for? How many people do you know, sir, who are willing to do a little bit more than what they get paid for? How many, sir? How many? How many? Hardly any. Most people don't even want to do what they get paid for. There's a second big category of people who only want to do what they can get by with. There's a very small fraction of people who are willing to do a little bit more than what they get paid for. And I asked him, I don't care what your profession is, if you fall into that category, tell me where's your competition? Folks, you cannot even find a good attorney today. You cannot even find a good accountant today. You can't even find a good plumber. You can't even find a good carpenter. Question is, are you willing to do a little bit more than what you get paid for? Now hear this, folks. If there's one take-home here, here's one take-home coming. If you check out the life histories of most successful people, they all have lived by this one principle in life, and that is, I shall always give more than what I get to my family. I shall always give more than what I get. Sorry, sir. I shall always give more than what I get to my organization. I shall always give more than what I get to my customer. And I shall always give more than what I get to my society. Folks, let me ask you, if we live by this one principle, you tell me, where's our competition? In fact, we become the competition. We have no competition. Are you with me? Hello? Folks, this is what it is about, taking ownership. Ownership is entrepreneurship. Let me share. "35 years ago, I heard this in the U.S. There were some people working out in the hot sun, and a limousine came by, the window pane dropped, and the man from inside called and said, 'Steve, come here.' And the man left his work, went inside. Inside was John, the president of the company. They exchanged pleasantries. He drank some cold water. After 5 minutes, he went back to work. All the co-workers of Steve were impressed. You know this guy in the limousine? He's the president of the company. And Steve said, well, not only do I know him, in fact, he and I joined the company together on the same day. Now they were confused. You mean you both joined together on the same day? He said, yeah. Not only on the same day, but also on the same position. Now they were even more confused. If you joined on the same day, the same position, how come he's the president and you are still working as a laborer out in the sun? Folks, the answer that Steve gave says it all. If there's one take home, this is it. Here, Steve said, 25 years ago, he started working for the company. And I started working for $1.28 an hour. He started working for the company. I started working for $1.28 an hour. Folks, I don't know if you got the message. Folks, the incident, the story that I just shared with you is literally the story of Jack Welch. Now, you might say that this kind of thing might work in the U.S. Let me share with you how it works in India, too. 5 years ago, I met a man who had taken early retirement from the defense services and started his business and doing close to 1,000 crore turnover. One day, a friend of his came over who was looking for a job. And he went up to him and said, can I work for you? He said, of course, why not? I've known you for the past 30 years. One day the office closed, everybody left. These two friends were in the office. So the person who had joined said to the owner, you remember 30 years ago, we both joined the defense services together. You remember? He said, yeah, I remember. And he said, you were an employee, I was an employee, you remember? He said, yeah, I remember. And he said, you remember you were getting $1,000, I was getting $1,000, you remember? He said, yes, I remember. And he said, look at this. 30 years later, I'm still an employee, and you're the owner of a company worth 1,000 crores. Isn't this luck? Folks, isn't this luck? Hello? Seemed you had your breakfast, all right. Folks, the answer the man gave, if this is your take home tonight, hear this carefully, folks. The answer the man gave, here's what he said. He said, I didn't want to bring it up. Since you brought it up, I will address it. Now, you may not like it, but that's your problem. He said, I want to remind you of an incident 30 years ago. One day, we had a long day. We came from the office to the barracks to sleep. It was 9:30. When we got to the barracks, we walked 2 miles. When we got to the barracks, it occurred to me, uh-oh, we forgot to switch the light and the fan. We forgot to switch it. What did you say? You said, haven't we had a long day? Didn't we work since morning till night? We walked 2 miles. If we go back, that'll be another 2 miles, and coming back another 2 miles. Don't you see what time it is? It is 9:30. It will become 10:30. And then you said to me, what is your problem, man? It is only one light. And you said, what is the big deal? It is only one fan. And you said, what is the big deal? It is only one night. And you said, what is the big deal? Anyway, it belongs to the government. You said, I'm not going back. You just went off to sleep. And he said, I went back and I switched off the light and the fan, and then I came back. He said, now hear this carefully. He said, 30 years ago, we both joined the services together on the same day. That is correct. You were getting $1,000. I was getting $1,000. That is also correct. He said, you were an employee then. You are an employee now. That is also correct. He said, here's the difference. I was an owner that night. I'm an owner tonight too. I was an owner that night. I'm an owner tonight too. And the kind of thinking you have, you will die an employee too. Folks, in life, a paycheck does not make anyone an owner or an employee. It is acceptance of accountability is what makes a person owner or an employee. And why is this so crucial? You realize one thing, whenever we take ownership, guess what happens? 2 things happen. Our decision-making ability changes. Our problem-solving ability changes. Are you with me? Hello? And what is leadership? This is leadership. Leadership is nothing else but decision-making and problem-solving. And that's it. Folks, since I don't have a whole lot of time here, but let me share. I was born in India within a family. We had coal mines, had close to 1,000 people working, and they got nationalized. We came on the street. My father had died when I was just about finished college. We were left with the liabilities and assets were gone. I was married only 4 weeks then. And we started selling little things from home to get money for food. I remember my daughter was born 1 year after my marriage. And I sold some of the last piece of my mother's jewelry to get released from the hospital. Did not have $10 to buy milk that night. I left India in 1973, November 13th. Went to Canada, started washing cars door to door in a bucket in my hand. Right about that time, I saw an ad in the newspaper, you want to make some extra money, do the door-to-door demos for vacuum cleaners. So I responded to the ad. They gave us a pep talk, and they said, go to the demo. Every demo you do, you'll get paid $5. I was genuinely naive. I actually believed we only had to do the demo and not to sell. So I used to go to an apartment building, knock a door. When the lady or the man used to open, I used to say, ma'am, you don't have to buy the vacuum cleaner. All that you got to do is take a demo and I'll get paid $5. Some people took pity, let me come in. Some people kicked me out. Some people slammed the door. One day I was doing a demo in an Indian family's home, and the man and woman were sitting on the sofa. I was on the floor. And this man, instead of looking at the vacuum cleaner, he kept looking at me all the time. So I asked him, "Sir, did I do something wrong?" He said, "No." I said, "Why do you look at me this way?" He said, "Shiv, have you ever sold life insurance?" I said, "What kind of question is this? I'm demoing vacuum cleaners." I said, "No, I have never sold life insurance, and besides, I never will, because I remember back home in India, that agent, that pest, who used to come to my home would not leave my life for 3 hours till I signed the application. No wonder they call them life insurance agents. They don't leave your life." I said, "I will never be that pest in my life." He said, "No, Shiv, it doesn't work that way here. Look at me. I'm a life insurance agent. Look at my lifestyle. I drive a Lincoln." Later on, I came to know he was working for MetLife. And they had a recruitment drive going on. If you recruited a new salesperson, you would get a Samsonite briefcase. So why was they? By the way, MetLife is my client today. I mean, we do work with them. I said, "No, thank you." I left. But you cannot go straight. You go the other way around. We were living in the same building, and somehow his wife became friendly with my wife and convinced her that selling life insurance was the right thing to do. And my wife also knew we couldn't go through life washing cars. We had to do something different. I had a family to support. I had a little daughter. And my wife also knew my failure record in life was pretty good. Even in school, I wasn't the brightest kid, folks. In my 8th grade, out of 6 or 7 subjects, I failed in all except one. So my principal called me and said, "Shiv, you're paying too much attention on one subject." Folks, out of 28 kids, I was number 27 because 28 was absent. No kidding. My principal used to call my parents and tell them, "Get this kid out of the school. He's one kid who's going to bring the average of the school." I was bringing the average down. Any Modernites here? I bet some. Oh, there you are. I'm going in the 60s when Mr. Kapoor used to be the principal. Folks, I told my wife, I said, "I'm not selling life insurance." She said, "Shiv, to sell life insurance, you got to take an exam. Why don't you take the exam? And if you pass, you have a choice. Right now, you have no." I said, "All right, I'll take the exam, but I won't sell." Folks, I took the exam, and guess what? I passed. And this person who got all this started, he said, "Let me take you to my office and introduce you to my district manager," who was a very sharp elderly man by the name of Joe Bonney. As I walked in, he congratulated me, and he says, "Shiv, if you become a life insurance agent right now, I'll make you an offer and I'll give you time to think." I said, "Go ahead." He said, "If you become an agent right now, I'll give you a draw of $150 a week." And he said, "You have time to decide before I withdraw the offer." He said, "You got 30 seconds. I said, "Joe, you said you'll give me time to think." He said, "You have 20 left. I said, "I'll take it." And now I became a life insurance agent, which I never in my life wanted to be. They gave me the book, gave me a little training, and they said, "Boy, go sell." Folks, and for the next 3 months, I went out selling. I put in 100%. Why 100%? I actually put in 200%. We all can tell when we've done our best. We all can tell when we've not done our best. I can look at the mirror and say, "I put in my best." Guess what? I broke the company's record. You're not impressed, are you? Oh, thank you. Well, wait till you find out which record I broke, how many sales I made. How many sales I made? Almost none. So my manager called me right back. And he says, "I've been in this life insurance business 35 years, and I've seen some slow starts in my life, but I've never seen one like you." And he says, "Don't come back tomorrow." He said, "You're fired." I said, "Wait a minute, Joe. Before you fire me, at least hear me out. I'm not a doctor, engineer, attorney, accountant. I'm a BCom 3rd division, failed my 10th. How do you expect performance? I got a handicap." Folks, the moment I said that, somebody spoke very harshly to me, and he said, He said, you shut up and listen to me. Folks, 40 years ago, that shut up did the job. He said, you shut up and listen to me. And I'm glad he did. And I realized later on it was not anger, it was concern. He said, you don't have a handicap, you got a bad attitude. And it is people like you who not only ruin their own lives, but they also ruin their family's life too. He said, do you know who has a handicap in life? He said, the doctor, engineer, attorney, accountant, they all have handicaps in life. Boy, I never heard that one before. I said, how do they have handicaps? He said, go check out all over the world. It is generally true. They all have chosen their field. They are stuck. Generally true. He said, they all have chosen the field. They are stuck. He said, you haven't picked your field. Don't you see the world is open to you? I said, Joe, I never thought from that point of view. He said, now that you're fired, he said, you got all the time to think. He said, leave my office. I left his office. That night, I had an appointment about 7 o'clock. Folks, I had a choice to keep or not to keep. I knew I had no job next day. I might or might not get paid for it anyway. It was 6:30. I decided to keep that appointment. While I was driving, having failed one after the other in my life, I was feeling so depressed that night. I don't know what happened to me. I just burst out into crying. I kept driving, kept crying, kept praying. I couldn't understand what was going on in my life. I had a family to support, didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I'm just going to finish up. I didn't know how to do it, folks. Finally, I got to my appointment, got a handle on myself, went up, started selling. It was 7. By the time the man looked at his watch, it was 11:30. I got in at 7, it was 11:30. He said, do you realize what time it is? It's a polite way of saying get out. Then he said, do you realize I have to go to work tomorrow morning? But somehow I wasn't moving. He looked at me, I looked back at him. I don't know what got into this person's mind around 11:30. He says to me, tell me, what does it take to get rid of you right now? I thought he was asking me the rates. I opened the book back again, looked at his age, looked at the factor, multiplied with insurance, and I said, sir, that will be $27.58. He said, what? I said, $27.58. He looked at me disgustingly. And he says, if it is only 27 bucks, why did you tell me 4.5 hours ago? He wrote me a check. He says, take this in quickly. Folks, that was one of my first sales. Came home midnight. Next morning, went to my office. I went to my manager, and I said, Joe, I got an application today. It's a small one, but it's a bound one. It's with a check. Because without a check has no meaning. And I said, Joe, will you let me stay? I make one commitment to you. I won't let you down because of my effort. But please withdraw the papers, because if you fire me today, I don't know where to go. I said, the only place I know where to go is go back to washing cars. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. That day he said to me, he said, Shiv, that's not your small one, that's your big one. He said, I'll let you stay here only if you make a commitment, not to me, but to yourself. I'll let you stay. That day, folks, 40 years ago, I made a commitment. And that was one of the turning points in my life. And don't we all have some turning points? Yes, no. He would do the papers, and that year I went ahead, sold $1 million, next year $3 million, the year after $5 million, moved on to the U.S., got into 3 businesses. I bought out a company out of California in 1984, started the New Jersey operation with no clients, and I sold my company with close to 500 clients for a decent sum. Now, why do I share my life with you, folks? For a few reasons. One, the last 40 years have not been that easy. All people see is where you are today. They don't see the struggle behind where you are today. And you know what they say? Must be lucky. 1. 2, I kept failing all my life and kept blaming the whole world for my failure, not realizing that I was my own biggest problem. Nothing changed outside, something changed inside, and the direction changed. Folks, Many times, aren't we our own biggest problem? Yes, no? Okay. Naresh, how are you? And just give me a couple minutes. I'll just wind up because we started rather late. Let me finish up here quickly. And folks, the next part was what I learned from him. All our appointments were made 1 week in advance. And here's what the man said to me. He said, Shiv, if you don't have appointments made 1 week in advance, and if you wake up in the morning and if you start thinking, let me see what I have to do today, he said, you are unemployed with a job. Are you with me? Hear this. He said, if you don't have appointments made 1 week in advance, and if you wake up in the morning and you start thinking, let me see what I have to do today, he said, you are unemployed with a job. And then he said was even more profound. He said, do you realize that there are more people in this world who are not working than there are people who are unemployed? And folks, what he said after that was even more profound. He said, remember one thing. If you want to succeed in life, live by one principle, that wages without work amounts to stealing. Are you with me? Hello? Wages without work amounts to stealing. And he said, don't take a show of hands and to check how many people are working and how many are stealing. Are you with me? And then, folks, when he said, you shut up and listen to me, I realized one thing. He didn't speak to me as a manager. He spoke to me as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, a leader, a parent. And that day, I learned one more thing, that sometimes in life, you got to be unkind to be kind. And I learned one more lesson, that the greatest coaches in the world are the greatest critics in the world. Tell me, the person who wins the gold at the Olympics, could he ever win a gold without a good coach behind him? No. And if the coach did not correct this person or criticize in a constructive manner, could they ever improve? Folks, hear this. A great coach feels more miserable when they criticize the athlete. A good parent feels more miserable when they criticize the kids. Yes, no. And that day I learned one more lesson, that there are only two relationships in life that care to correct. The world punishes. Only parents and teachers in life care to correct. The world punishes. And that day I learned one lesson from him, that so long as criticism is painful to the giver, they have a right to give constructive criticism. But the moment criticism becomes a pleasure to the giver, they have no more right to criticize. That is sadistic. Let me just use two sentences and wind up on this one. The second is persuasion skills. Folks, persuasion means ability to influence, ability to convince, ability to negotiate, ability to sell. That's persuasion. You see, in my book, I put in that in life, results are rewarded, efforts are not, which means we judge ourselves by our intentions, but the world judges us by our actions. Yes, no. And third, prioritizing. Let me quickly, one sentence on this, finish up. Prioritizing. Folks, think about it. The amount of time-saving devices we have today, we have never had that many time-saving devices in history, and yet we don't have time. What a paradox. You know why? Because somewhere, we lost our priorities. And I'm guilty, by the way, more than anybody else. Somewhere we lost our priorities. You know why? We forgot to distinguish between what is important in life versus what is urgent in life. And you find, by and large, what's urgent is not important, and what is important is really not urgent. But hear this, and the doctor is here. Whenever we ignore what is important, it converts into urgent. See, health is important, exercise is important. But if I got a crucial meeting tonight, I can't exercise, it's not the end of the world. But if I ignore my health long enough, guess what will happen? I will land up in the hospital. That's right. See, whenever we ignore what is important, it converts into urgent. See, relationships are important, but they're not urgent. But you ignore long enough, guess what happens? You start talking through your lawyers. They convert into urgent. And folks, which brings us to the point that people keep saying, time flies. Folks, if time keeps flying, then time must be an aeroplane. Then if time is an aeroplane, who's the pilot? We're the pilots. But if we cannot distinguish prioritizing, then somebody else is the pilot. And supposing that we are the passenger, and supposing you're flying in an aircraft and somebody else is the captain, and the captain gets on the public address and says, I got good news and bad news. And the good news is the tailwinds are in our favor. We will reach our destination 1 hour in advance. And the bad news is that the navigation system has broken. We don't know where we're going. But he comes and gives you, since you are the passenger, he says, here is a parachute and jump. And you take in a jump. And you land up in the middle of the jungle. It's 9 o'clock, pitch dark. But he did tell you, there are some rules in the jungle, and the rules are that 10 o'clock, all animals are going to come out and going to eat you up. And the only way to get out of this jungle is to run south. Now, in that midnight of the jungle, in pitch dark, how do you know what is south? And a salesman comes up to you at this point and says, I got a watch to sell you. That'll tell you how much time you got left before you get eaten up. You say, what good is the watch to me anyway? Then on the other side, he says, I got a compass. Which one do you want to buy? It's a no-brainer. You will buy the compass. Folks, what is the moral of this little story? The moral is very clear. In life, direction is more important than speed in life. Are you with me? Direction is more important than speed in life. With those words, I will let these people, folks, share their wisdom with you. And I have a small little gift for each one of you. I have this 10-minute DVD. Carry this home as a small little courtesy from my side to our friend Rishi and Sunita. And we also have a winner's poster for each one of you. On your way out, kindly do carry. And some people wanted to find about the leadership programs. We have put in this brochure for each one of you. And Sunita, I'd like to hand over to you our winner's mugs. By the way, these are jewelry boxes. We're just celebrating on our book 3.2 million copies sold. So we're just celebrating that. This is for you. Please have your tea, coffee. And Rishi, my friend, let me hand over to you, sir, one of these. And I would pass on these books you can win and you can sell. Another one is Living with Honor, which says it is better to be honorable than to be honored. Better to be honorable than to be honored. And this came out, I was addressing, and especially the issue came on Padma Shri and Padma, those awards. I said sometimes even criminals who have context, they get those awards. They are not worth it now anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Khera, and many, many congratulations on the ever-growing sale. But we also have a small token for you, sir, and I'd like to request Sunita to please hand over this token as we appreciate your presence. And, of course, token all thanks to Soulflower. Mr. Khera. Mr. Khera, please allow us to appreciate your presence. Sunita presenting sir with a Soulflower token. And once again, many congratulations to you and the team, sir. Thank you once again for joining us, for sharing the anecdotes and, of course, the live experiences.